All right. Hey, this is Brian Winter with Forever 11. Um, we are just about to start up our Twitter space here on the art of good storytelling. And I am just waiting for the rest of my crew to show up. All right. Looks like my production manager just came on, and now I'm just waiting for my good buddy David. Of course, I could, if you've listened to our Twitter spaces before, you know that I would have no problem monologuing and carrying on forever. But because I would get bored with that, and thus undoubtedly you would get bored with that, I'd like to bring David on. All right. There he is. Wow, I was just getting ready to threaten our audience here with a really good time by me just monologuing by myself, but I knew it would be a lot more fun with you, so I was just stalling until you
I
showed up.
appreciate that. Hopefully, I can live up to the standard there.
Oh, the bar's not that high, David. Trust me. So,
Oh man, hey, how's your Thursday going today?
oh, it's going great, man. Beautiful sunny day, and we get to talk about art and NFTs and storytelling, and so yeah, I mean, like it's all good. How about you?
Likewise, man. I like it. I always look forward to our time together here and making sure that we take this opportunity to drop those gems for everybody.
Yeah, well, it's crazy when we started down this path of this little like 6-part series that we've called The Art of Good Storytelling. Um Man, it's like it's moving so fast. I'm like, as soon as we're done covering today's like subtopic under here, like we're halfway through it. Like we're halfway there to telling people how to tell an amazing story, and that's just like really exciting. But yeah, well, today in particular, so we started with an overview, and then actually, I'm going backwards now. We the first session we started with an overview, and we kind of told everyone, "Hey, man, there's like 5 kind of elements to really good storytelling," and that was plot, setting, characters, a point of view, and conflict. And then our second episode, which we did earlier this week, was on plot, and that was fascinating because we got to kind of break down an artist profile video from my good friend Colin McConnell, and how organically in like 2 minutes he was just able to have this video that he shot himself that is just like this perfect example of how to tell a story and get all of the really good juicy elements of to a good plot. And I really enjoyed that. And then now today we're talking about the next element, which is setting. And setting breaks down to like really just there's really just two basic things. It's location and time. And at first I was like, okay, and I'm putting this in the context of, let's say I'm an artist and I'm giving like my, you know, origin story of, how I got started into art. And if you look at this the wrong way, um, you could be missing a huge opportunity. Because if you just come in and say, like one of the questions I'll ask some of our artists if we're doing like an interview or something, I'll say, so how did you first get started in art? Or when were you first bit by this, art bug that you're like, whoa, hey, this is really cool. I just discovered this new thing. And it shocks me when people give me an answer. I mean, which is true, but when people give me an answer like, "Oh yeah, it was like 6th grade and I was in middle school," which which is true, but I think, man, what a missed opportunity, because you could just take that so much deeper. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm thinking in correlation to say like movies or whatnot. Some of the most profound examples of setting and timeline. For me, in terms of complexity and depth, you're looking at like Inception,
Oh yeah.
Interstellar, Godfather trilogy, where the setting and the timeline are super, super, super relative to the context of the story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And it's interesting that your mind, that's actually really cool, jumped to like the time aspect. For me, when I was actually more drawn to the location aspect, and my mind went to like a Harry Potter and like Hogwarts, and the whole building this whole physical universe of a castle and all these magical things that could happen, or like another. Of course, we're covering all that fantasy and sci-fi here, but like for me, another world would be like Star Wars or something with all of these unbelievable like ships and planets and you know. So yeah, it's interesting. I went location and you were drawn
Yeah,
to time. Yeah,
yeah,
but you know, I spent a little bit of time actually kind of going a little bit deeper on this myself because I thought, okay, if I'm an artist and I'm listening to Brian and David pontificate about time and location, um, a natural question for our artists is going to be like, well, how can I write more about that? How do I take like seventh grade or I think my example is sixth grade middle school, and how do I draw that out, and make it something a little bit more I guess interesting, you know? And when I was doing that, I kind of ended up breaking down physical location and just started thinking. Actually, what came to my mind was like our five senses, right? Would it, so if this sixth grade middle school example, take us to your middle school. What did it look like? What did it smell like? What were the sounds? How did you feel? Or not just how you felt, but like what did that environment, feel like? And then, man, once I added that like thought provoking aspect, I actually transported myself back to like sixth grade middle school and thinking like, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember being in a crowded hallway and it was grades 6 through 8. And as a sixth grader, of course, I was on the shorter, smaller end of that. So most of the students in the hallways were towering over me. And it was my first time being in an environment where, in fifth grade, my elementary school, we had like one classroom and I had like this one teacher and she taught us everything, science, math, what, but no, now I'm in like, I have like 6 different classrooms and 6 different teachers and I have to navigate this building and, not get stepped on by these, other giant, preteens around me. And then I imagined, what that would be like stepping into a room, like a classroom, maybe where there's an art teacher. And if that was my experience where I found this new passion that just got me really excited, in that context, all of a sudden, this physical location of an art room actually literally becomes like this haven, this safe place from the chaos and madness that was likely ensuing in the hallway outside, and so that was where my imagination went and how you could describe that physical location far beyond just middle school.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it's all with storytelling, to be able to leverage the senses and take someone and put them in your shoes, or the shoes rather that you'd like to have them get a perspective on. I was just reading right now regarding Tolstoy's style and how he took his writings, and obviously having written some of the most famous and
Yeah.
revered novels of all time. And it's stating that to depict all in motion his style was to depict all in motion, the inner world of people and the life surrounding them is the basic creative method of Tolstoy. He also sought to reveal the reality underneath by removing the veneer of custom. I mean, that's storytelling 101 to the highest degree.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's good. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that too. Basically at the root of it here, I think what we're getting at is, especially because it kind of goes without saying that, like, you have to establish for your viewer, reader, whatever, your audience, you kind of have to establish that setting in the beginning, right? And so the best way to do that, and really what we're ultimately trying to do here is we're trying to engage emotions, right? And we're trying to get our audience to be able to engage with, like, we haven't even gotten to the meaty part yet. We haven't even gotten to, the climax of our story, but we want our audience to be able to, like, feel like they're there. Like, we know what it felt like to be in that middle school, and like in my example, but we want to paint that picture for our audience so they can feel that same way. And how we do that is by really tying in emotions and, using key adjectives to convey, this was the emotion that I was feeling. So, like with my example of that crowded hallway, yes, I could describe what it was like, but also it's helpful for me to describe to my audience how I was processing that. And so then I could even go deeper and go into, like, using terms like, I was really intimidated. I had a lot of anxiety because I feared I was going to be late. I didn't. I had all these new teachers, and I didn't know what they were going to think of me. And then, meanwhile, all of this is going on, and I'm trying to make new friends because there's all these new people, even within my own grade, that came from different schools, and so I felt distracted at the same time because, I feel horribly lost, but I'm trying to maintain this image like I'm really cool and I got it together. And I'm looking around at everyone else and they look cool and they look like they've all got it together. But it wasn't until I was 30 that I realized, wait, I don't think anybody else knew what was going on either, but, so yeah, just a way to go really deep with that, and really, draw it out for your audiences to share your emotions and evoke the similar emotions in your audience.
And that's the substance that we're looking to encourage artists to bring in injunction with whatever their creative may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Let's switch over just to time for a hot second here, because this was one, I got to be honest, like when I was kind of brainstorming this myself, like I kind of struggled with, because I was kind of like, all right, fine. I can say like sixth grade, like that was like the time frame, for me. But what does that mean? Like, how do I draw that out? And so I just was spending some time with it. And then I realized, well, wait a second, sixth grade, in the 80s, the typical sixth grade experience may have been very different than a sixth grade experience in the 90s or after, the new millennium kind of thing. So when you're talking about time, it really then jumped out to me that it's really important to describe what is going on, like, during this time. So, what was the economic situation? What were there social movements, going on? Just, are there political things? Did you have a personal, situation going on? I mean, I remember, and not that it would pertain necessarily to, like, my story as an artist, but when I do think back to middle school, Reagan was president, And I remember hearing things on the news like about this Star Wars program, and we might have satellites that could shoot down nuclear missiles that were launched from Russia. And it's kind of funny, but like I remember actually thinking like, do I need to be worried about like nuclear missiles? And yeah, I mean, I guess you could always say to a degree, there's always a risk or whatever, but it wasn't the way it was like front page news was significant then, whereas now we don't see front page news about like Russia's gonna fire nuclear missiles at us any day now, or not nearly as much as we did back then. So that's just an example of there may be aspects of what's going on in the world that, again, this all comes back to emotions that are shaping what you were feeling and what your emotions were at that time, and you want to bring your audience there as well, especially as an artist, because whatever is impacting those emotions, that's likely what is going to show up in your art at that time anyways.
That's true. I mean, it would be a byproduct of you just existing in society, and obviously one can make the claim that that type of rabbit hole of media agenda or whatnot is transferable in the sense of, well, as long as we have good intentions, why don't artists always try to create their own rabbit holes where they offer unique experiences for those that decide to, follow and collect and hold on to their art pieces? Let's encourage artists to one, curate and create these magnificent rabbit holes that encapsulate what it is that they're able to bring to the art community, and then encourage people to go down and see the experience of doing so as part of the overall product.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Awesome. Absolutely. Cool. Well, that might just be what we got for setting. I mean, we've, on one hand, it's not too complex in terms of it breaks down to location and time, and we've kind of covered some different ways that you can draw that out. But I think the key takeaway for both of them is it both comes back to the emotions and, being able
Agreed.
to articulate your emotions, and thus your readers, the better you can articulate your emotions in that time, that's where your readers are going to be able to identify with you. And it might not be exactly the same way, but it's natural for then your audience to think about maybe similar situations like, oh, I know what that feels like. It was a little different for me, but I definitely know what that feels like. And that's ultimately what we're aiming for, I think is right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely agree.
Yeah.
That is a good spot to call it.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. Well, that's setting. Next, our episode 4, keep your eyes out. We're going to be talking about characters. This is going to be a fun one because we're going to be talking about protagonists and antagonists. And that's basically this isn't too much of a spoiler, but we're going to be talking about the good guys and the bad guys, and how really being able to bad guy is really going to help boost the interest level of your story. So keep your eyes out for part 4 coming up.
That'll be a fun one. I look forward to that one.
Awesome. All right, guys. Till next time. See you.
Take care, everyone.